It's my pleasure to introduce Provost Clabo to get us started with remarks.
Thanks. Oh, little height difference. Thanks, Jordan. 100 years. Let's start by recognizing that. Holy cow. It feels strange to say that tonight we gather to celebrate a century of excellence in the Department of Psychology here at Wayne State. I bring greetings tonight on behalf, obviously, of President Espy and the entire leadership team. I did speak with the president earlier this evening. She is unfortunately out of town, but she asked me to bring her warmest regards to all of you. So there, I've done the bit on behalf of the boss. And now I get to talk about us. We are really thrilled to be able to celebrate the kind of academic excellence, groundbreaking research, and impactful community engagement that happens right here in the coolest city on the planet, where I hear the Tigers are winning 2-0. But when I think of the impact of your department on this city in the last 100 years and the opportunities yet to come, they are on full display here tonight in your faces, in the artifacts we've seen, in the stories I've heard, in the pictures we've been watching. It is a wonderful testament to the work that has happened here. I'm thrilled that we're joined tonight by current faculty. Current faculty, raise hands, yay. Retired faculty. Current staff. Retired staff. Alumni. Woohoo. Students, current students, yahoo, oh, big table of students, and our esteemed guests. We have in the department extraordinary faculty led by Chair Scott Bowen and by institutional leaders, including someone I work with every day, for whose wise counsel I am very grateful, Senior Vice Provost Boris Baltus. And in a few moments, you're going to hear Boris make some remarks. And if someone wants to talk with me later, I'll tell you how impromptu Boris's remarks are for tonight. We, in all, over 40 full-time faculty, plus our part-time faculty, incredible staff, bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise to our 1,500 undergrad majors and over 100 graduate students. The research that is conducted in the Department of Psychology is truly remarkable, with groundbreaking work in the multiple domains of psychology. And I just want to express my own personal gratitude for the work you do every day in the department, whether it's in the classroom, conducting research at health centers throughout our region, working in community mental health clinics, in shelters, or shaping policy at NGOs. Your impact is felt across our nation and the world. So as we think about the university's College to Career initiative, your work encourages students to learn and apply their knowledge and skills to real-world problems. The possibilities for careers in psychology are more varied and widely recognized than ever, and pathways to continuing education through grad school leans into our prosperity agenda and our mantra as a university of opportunity. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that 100 is a great number at Wayne State this week. Hopefully you have all seen that US News and World Rankings finally recognized the impact of the work we do here at Wayne State. Of the 5,000 universities in the country, ranking Wayne State for the first time in the top 100 universities in the country. And we have global impact, but we also have incredible local impact. You know, we jumped this year 89 spots, ranking number 62 in social mobility. And absolutely. We are an engine of prosperity for students. At many universities, when we graduate a student into a meaningful career, we help them achieve a career goal, and that is incredibly important. And for many of our students here at Wayne State, when we graduate a student into a meaningful career with stable employment, we change the tax base in a neighborhood. We have real world impact. We change lives. We make communities better. The work that has been accomplished in the first 100 years, right here in the Department of Psychology and throughout our 13 academic schools and colleges at our R1 institution, is finally being recognized nationally. So as we celebrate tonight a century of excellence, I am incredibly grateful for the past, really excited about our future. I thank you for your work, for being here tonight to celebrate, for the invitation to join you, and I can't wait to see what's ahead for this wonderful department. Thank you.
Hello. I'm just gonna make a few remarks. One thing I wanted to say, I've been at Wayne State now 26, 27 years, I guess, depending how you count. The department and the IO program has been my home during this time and has really made my experience here very special. It has affected me in many ways. However, I also want to talk about being part of this department does come with some potential hazards. And I'll give you one example. So our department has a ski outing. I know whether it's still going on or not, I'll have to let Aaliyah. Climate change, we're not doing it, but we used to have a ski outing. And one ski outing in particular, we'd always go to Mount Brighton. We had faculty, we had grad students, we had academic staff. And we ended up one time with 3 people in the ski patrol hut. I think there was a broken thumb, there was a dislocated shoulder. Needless to say, we changed venues of that, but it was still part of the great experience about being part of the department. I've also had great mentors in the department. Shell Alexander, Sub Pizzicato, one Marcus Dixon as well. I mean, they helped shape my career. They've always been there for me, and it's been a great experience. There's also the other, and there's a whole table full of them up here, graduate students. I've had the opportunity to work with so many great graduate students. They really inspired me. They made it possible to do a lot of the research that I do, or did at this point. But I'm so proud of them and what they've achieved as well. So I guess in sum, I'm really proud to have been part of this and still be part of this department. I think it's a great department. I get to see across the university all kinds of different departments, and this is a special one. So I think you should just be, I mean, I don't want to say you should be grateful to be part of the department, but it's a good one. And it's been great to be part of it during this time. That's it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Steffi Hartwell. I'm Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and I'm here to tell you it's a good department. Actually, it's a fantastic department, a department that's near and dear to my heart, and I get to work closely with. I also am going to go out on a limb and guess for us that the injuries were graduate students, because graduate students are a crazy bunch. I was a graduate student once, and I remember what I used to do as a graduate student. Once I was gainfully employed, all that nonsense stopped, like skitching on motorcycles and all that stuff. But so I'm guessing. So it's an absolute honor to be here with you today as we celebrate the 100th anniversary of Wayne State University's Department of Psychology. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the leadership of the Department Chair, Scott Bowen, and Associate Chair, Emily Grecken. Your shared dedication and passion has driven the department forward, and it's a privilege to have worked alongside you both. Thank you for your years of service and commitment. You've been quite a team. 100 years of impact, that is a huge milestone. The reason the psychology department has the largest number of majors of any department at the university, the provost says 1,500. I know it's 1,240, but who's counting when you get that high? Because you're larger than 9 schools and colleges at the university. You're just the best at what you do. From groundbreaking research on behavioral and cognitive neuroscience, I see Jessica, Anna, Susie's here, to life-changing work in clinical and social psychology across the lifespan, Marjorie with children, Hannah with adolescents, Antonia with adults. This department has continually set the bar high. Our excellent clinical PhD program with a great foundation, Mark Lumley, and the leadership of Valerie and Chris, with the jewel of the clinic serving Detroiters, Marilyn, Marla, Tiffany, I think you're all here tonight. We have stellar programs. I always mention Court, Forrest, Marcus, you three, awesome. Our undergrad programs, neuropsych, led recently by Tom Fisher. Mentoring, I see Lisa Rapport. I think Stephanie Spielman's here. These folks are amazing mentors. And citizens of the university, Lara Jones, Ty Partridge, these folks just, you know, they're in faculty council, they give and they give and they give and still serve all these students. You do amazing cutting edge research. I saw John here, Tim, Amanda, Paul. The research is great. I love to go to Scott's lab. I teach drugs and society and I've been able to go visit the lab and I've learned a lot. Susie's lab, just working with you all. We were talking about hundreds. The provost spoke about hundreds. The department was ranked among the top 100 undergraduate psychology programs in the nation just at the same time. So I think we're at 80. This reflects a century of excellence, a legacy of rigorous education, and a community of scholars that have pushed boundaries of what is possible in psychological research and practice. What truly makes this milestone special is the people in this room. And many of you are proud alumni. I heard you clapping and shouting out, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Your contributions are woven into the fabric of our success, whether you are impacting the field of mental health, shaping policy, or contributing to cutting edge research. You embody the spirit of the program and the mission. What's more, you give back to this place that helped you get to where you are. At the end of the day, our students, your countless students are the ones who benefit from your connection, mentorship, and generosity. And I can't thank you all enough for that. That is the legacy. As we look ahead, I'm confident that the next 100 years will be just as transformative. This department will continue to lead, oh, I hope so, in future and innovate, and just as we have done for the past century, helping people live better lives. Thank you to the event coordinator, Shelley Sequin, Stephanie Chastain, Jordan, and others. And here's to the next chapter of excellence in psychology at Wayne State University. I had the pleasure of welcoming your new faculty. I've met some of your postdocs. I love your graduate students. The future is bright and you're in stellar hands. Thank you. And now it's my privilege to introduce the man of the hour, Scott Bowen.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is over the next 4 hours, I'm going to give you a history of the department. Seriously, I'll try to do it in 20 minutes. We'll see what happens, but seriously, I'll try to do that. So, okay. before we get started, what I need to do is recognize Shell Lockman. Yes, absolutely. As I start this presentation on the history of the department, you need to realize that the contributions of Shell Lockman are immense. Without his help and being basically the historian of the department, we really would not know the things that we know. He published a history of the Department of Psychology at Wayne State University several years ago, 1997. It was a 30-page document, which Shelley and myself and others have used a lot to develop this talk. And it was basically the paper that popped out when we kind of Googled and said, okay, how old is the department? Because we didn't know until, I think it was Shelley that actually found this out back in February, is that right? That we were 100 years old. So it was kind of just this accidental thing that we discovered. So I have to give Shell credit for this. And I like the quote that's up here. It's not entirely an objective history. The author has permitted its impressions, opinions, judgments, as well as a few anecdotes to intrude. Since much of this history is dependent on memory and probably bias of the author, some material and dates may be regarded as closely as approximate rather than a rigorously precise. Okay, so just a little bit, well, actually I should back up. So Shell was a biopsychologist, and he was one of the longest serving people in our department. Actually, let me back up. He was in the department for 48 years. So from 1946 to 1994. His record is only second to Carrie Lichtman, who served as a faculty member for 49 years, from 1968 to 2017. Shell was particularly supportive of the undergraduates and was the advisor of Psych-Hi, which is the International Honor Society. It was something very dear to my heart because I'm one of the co-mentors for that program. And he actually helped establish the Psych-Hi chapter at Wayne State University, and we are now one of the oldest chapters in the nation. So that's something to definitely be proud of. So we've had a Psych-Hi chapter that's been active for many years. He also was memorialized through the annual Lockman lectures. You should probably be aware of that. We usually held, it's usually held in March or April. And since that time, since we've done that, we've brought a number of outstanding guest lecturers to our campus. William Milberg, Tony Antonucci, William Stone, Noreen Johnson, James Prochaska, and Sharita Butler Barnes, just to name a few. So for all the ways that Shell helped to shape the culture of the department, we are very grateful. And this evening, we are especially grateful for his account of our department and history. So please help me join. Okay, so now the history of the Wayne State University and the department. So 1868, the Detroit Medical College was the forerunner of the School of Medicine. In 1881, the Detroit Normal Training School was a forerunner of the College of Education established. And then the Detroit Junior College comes around in 1917 as a 2-year program that later becomes the College of Liberal Arts. And then 1923, Detroit Normal Training School becomes a 4-year degree granting institution named the Detroit Teachers College, and the first degrees are granted in 1924. And this is where psychology comes in. So the records of psychology are sort of sketchy. It looks like some of the classes were taught by other departments, not a surprise, some zoology and some of the other departments. But faculty started to be hired, and in 1924, the Department of Psychology is born. And Ernest Skaggs becomes the first department chair of the Department of Psychology in 1924. And in 1933, Detroit Teachers College and all of this molds together and becomes Wayne State University in 1934. Okay, so this is a newspaper article that Shelley was able to find that documents the new university proposal for Wayne State University. And by the way, we have a 100-year website, so I think I've emailed that out to you. So a lot of these documents and a lot of other documents are on that website. There's seriously, I could go 4 hours, but you don't want me to. So a lot of these documents are on that website. So please take a chance to go and look at those. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is, with Shelley's help, thank you, Shelley, is we're going to break these up into decades. So we're going to go through each of the decades. So 1924 to 1934. Skaggs remains the chair throughout the first decade. WCF Kruger comes on board in 1928, followed by Wilson McTeer in 1929. Both had earned their PhD at the University of Chicago, which at the time had a strong faculty, including such psychologists as Harvey Carr, Carl Lashley, Marianne Bills, and L.L. Thurston. So in the early years, the department was concerned primarily with undergraduate education in psychology, with a focus on serving under the other units of the university, especially things like introductory psychology for nurses, introductory psychology for pre-education students, and the psychology of music for the music student. So 100 years later, kind of sounds familiar, right? Because what do? We offer a lot of courses to a lot of other departments, okay? So we basically come full circle. So we as a department still serve a large number of other departments and colleges on the campus. All right, so for some historic building sites, this is the first location of the psychology department. So here with the yellow arrow is 436 Putnam, and I'm turned around. I have no idea which way Putnam would be. So this is the first location of the department. So here's another shot of that. So you can see again the other side of this. And this is after the building had been torn down. I don't know if you can see it, but the sign still has a remain. So the Department of Psychology, you can see it here with the yellow. So it still says Department of Psychology. So even though the building had been torn down, we still had the sign up. Okay, so the next decade is 1934 to 1944. And this is basically the time when Skaggs continues as the chair throughout the second decade of the department. There's basically the quartet of individuals, Skaggs, Kruger, McTeer, and Haven, were the nucleus of the department for this decade. So these other individuals had been hired into the department, so we're slowly growing as a department. Samuel Waterful joined the department in 1941 and taught psychology of adjustment, which we still offer under the name psychology of everyday living, physiological psychology, which we now call brain and behavior, and psychopathology, which we have changed to abnormal psychology a couple of decades ago, but we recently renamed that to Introduction to Psychopathology. So a bit of a full circle there. And so here in this picture, this depicts from left to right, Haven, Wadfogel, Kruger, Skaggs, and McTeer. So this is the quartet of individuals plus Wadfogel. Then Shelley and Steffi were able to find some interesting photographs. So this is a psychology class in the main building, and I think the picture is 1936. From what they could tell, the students were measuring a fellow student's respiratory rate and pulse, and I guess the caption was possibly an experiment for a lie detector test. So the first beginnings of that. Some of the other gems that were found in the library was this memo from Skaggs. And I know it's probably a little difficult to read, so I will try to read it here. This is a letter or a memo to the dean. It says, Dean Whitehouse, sorry that I was unable to oblige you the other day at the departmental heads meeting by moving over to a seat near Mrs. Booth. However, when Miss Dreyer delivered your message, I had already nearly finished my soup and half of my salad. So Dean Hartwell, don't. Permit me to congratulate you on the innovation and the way you managed it. On the whole, I believe that the idea is a good one. Perhaps we could train the faculty to be less long-winded. And by limiting discussion to very brief time limits, we can have greater number of student criticisms and points of view prevented. Also, perhaps it would be interesting to have a group of our strong A and B students present in addition to organization leaders. Well, again, congratulations on a good idea. Having watched you handle the entire situation, permit me to add that you appear to be a diplomat of the first rank. Regards, Skaggs. Okay, so the next decade, we see that the department more than triples in size. So in 1947, we have 4 instructors that were added. So some of these names you'll probably know. Sheldon Lockman, Marianne McPherson, our first female faculty, Roy Robertson, and V.M. Ty. However, none of them had their PhDs. Interesting, World War II had just ended, and so what had happened? There was an influx of students, and there were so many students that came in that there were not enough PhDs in psychology to teach them. And so what they did is they hired these individuals, and these 4 new instructors basically earned their doctorate degrees a little bit later. So Skaggs remains chair until 1947, and according to Shaw Lockman, stepped down after disagreements with administration. I cannot imagine that happening. Wilson McTeer was made acting chair in 1947 and served until 1951. At this point, he refused to continue without a permanent chair position, and it appears that for one academic year, 1951 to 52, Kruger steps in as acting chair, and then McTeer resumes as chair from 1952 to 1954. I want to add that if you've not had a chance, we had some plaques made of the chairs, the previous chairs in the back, so you can see the history there. And those will be hung in the department next week. Okay. So this photo is from 1950, and we had more faculty join, and I'm not going to read all the names, but again, the faculty and the department began to grow at a pretty good pace here, 1944 to 1954. This is a photo of the McTeer collection that Shelley found in the Walter Reuther Library. It appears that McTeer was very diligent in his record keeping and has a lot of records containing history of the department, especially memos about office space, getting people on payroll, requests for more resources, records of tedious, monotonous administration work, much of which continues to be the work of an acting chair. No digs there. Okay, so the next decade is 1954 to 1964. And this is the time when C.M. Laudit was hired as chair after a pretty extended effort to recruit somebody to that position. So Laudit was a very accomplished academic. He had earned his PhD at Yale under Robert Yerkes. He had been the director of the psychology clinic at the University of Hawaii and then also at Indiana University. Laudit, under his leadership, the doctoral program was initiated in the fall of 1955. So this is the beginning of the graduate students. During that first year, 7 students were admitted. The first doctoral cohort was comprised of James Durnell, Shirley Doby, James Grizzle, Simon Herman, Rosemary Stark, Paul Sullivan, and Herbert Wallman. All of them were pursuing clinical psychology with the exception of Simon Herman, who was pursuing a degree in IO. So we have 6 of those 7 bound dissertations in the back. So you can see those very first dissertations from the department from 1955. James Grizzle finished his doctoral requirements first with Shirley Doby following shortly after, and both were awarded their PhDs at the 1959 graduation. Both served for many years in the Lafayette Clinic, and Gerald Rosenbaum is credited as being the spark plug for the clinical area, as Shell Lockman describes it in his publication. And he was a director from the beginning until his retirement in 1988. Laudit unfortunately passed away very shortly after his appointment as chair, so he only served for 2 years. He was diagnosed with leukemia and passed away shortly after the diagnosis. And we have a library in the department dedicated to him. After Laudit's passing, McTeer stepped up again as acting chair until Ross Stagmer was hired for the position in 1957, which basically starts what we call the Stagner years. get to that in just a second. So this is something else that Shelley and Stephanie found in the library. I'm not sure what we think of this, but they are their own guinea pigs. So I'm just going to say this is early psychology. But it's interesting to see what was being published at that time. And so this is in 1956, and the story was their own guinea pigs. Okay, so we had, at this point, in the 1950s, we moved to our second location, and this is the David McKenzie Hall, which is now parking structure 6, okay? So for those of you that don't remember this, so this is where parking structure 6 is located now. So this was the second home of the psychology department. This is another picture of that. Right, and basically the psychology department was there until 1980s. All right, and here's the demolition of this, and you can actually find this on YouTube. There's a video of it, so you can actually watch this. And you can, actually for some of you, I was going to say, you can see the Marwell bookstore, but a lot of you probably don't know Marwell bookstore. So Marwell bookstore sits, or used to sit, what is it then now? The EMA is the store where that is now. And so this is where, again, the McKenzie Hall was. Okay. So Ross Stagner may have been one of the most influential figures in shaping the department into what it is today. He completed his degree in 1932 at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and didn't mean to do that. And served as a faculty member at the University of Akron for 3 years and then 10 years at Dartmouth College. He conducted studies with Harry Harlow in the use of curare pertaining to the role of practices in learning. And he progressed and became a very prolific author. He authored the first American textbook on personality in 1937, titled Psychology of Personality. And his writing continued over 50 years and included dozens of textbooks. He became a member of the board of directors for the American Psychological Association and president of 2 divisions, the Division of Personality and Social Psychology and the Division of Industrial Psychology. He also served as a president of SIOP, the Society of Industrial Organizational Psychology. He accepted the chair position in 1957, and at that time, he was probably one of the best-known psychologists in the United States. And he was an idealist, and he came to Wayne because he thought he could make a difference. And so when he arrived in 1957, the psychology department had only 11 faculty, and the PhD program was jointly administered by psychology, the College of Education, the School of Social Work, and the Department of Sociology. So one of his first goals was to reorganize the PhD program and place it under the control of the psychology department, which is approved under his savvy lobbying. So Stagner was then able to hire several faculty, Eli Saltz, and then within a few years, he had Joel Ager, B.F. Auld, David Astorian, Sandra Brent, Kenneth Davidson, James Dent, Poshell, Samuel Connell, Hygen Rosel, and Charles Soley in expanding the department. Others that joined were Alan Bass, Gerald Cook, Winfried Fraser, Ira Firestone, Alan Harrington, Kerry Lickman, Sheldon Levy, and Robert Castema. So there's lots of other things that have happened here, and again, to try to keep this within some sort of a limited time frame, I'm going to skip a lot of the other things that happened with him. I did want to mention that he wrote an important piece here, and this is for the Society for the Psychological Study of Social Issues, SPSSI. And he wrote in his 1986 article reminiscing about the founding of SPSSI. SPSSI was conceived primarily as a group that might seek to create more job openings for young psychologists, to lobby in Washington for the inclusion of mental health services in the federal budget, to facilitate research on pressing social problems, and to defend colleagues who seem to be victims of unfair treatment. So he was really I guess, a mover and a shaker and shaping the way that psychology research was happening at the national level. So I'll leave it at that. This is more to that. Okay. So 1964 to 1974 is the next decade. So we're continuing with Stagner. And during his tenure, Wayne State University celebrates its 100th anniversary during this time. And then in 1968, we had B.F. Skinner come to Wayne State University. So for those of you, I hope everybody knows, B.F. Skinner was a very renowned psychologist who was the director of research at the Menninger Foundation and a former president of APA. He was invited by Wayne State University to give a talk on a paper that had been co-authored by Gardner Murphy. Their paper was entitled Psychology in the Year 2000, and you can find that manuscript on our 100-year webpage. So basically, Skinner talked about 10 topics in the field of psychology, commenting on then the current status of research in those areas and speculating on their future directions. These topics were primarily concerned with the influence of psychology on various aspects of life, including economics, education, the workplace, and government. He also discussed research in parapsychology and different states of consciousness. Based on the memos from Ross to the Centennial Commission, it appears that they approached Skinner for another symposium after they learned he was giving a talk to psychology. But without his knowledge, the tone of Ross's memos indicate that they felt like they were taking advantage of Skinner's gratefulness. So Skinner and Ross stayed in communication for many years, and we found a lot of correspondence between those two. And again, you can find that on the website. Okay. All right. So 1974, 1984, moving into the next decade. So after the Stagner period becomes is our next chair, who is another juggernaut, Shel Alexander. Absolutely. Shel succeeded Ross Stagner as department chair in 1973 and served in that capacity for 10 years. Shel could not join us tonight, but he is watching from his home in Massachusetts. So I say, hello, Shel. And I thank you personally from the interactions that I've had with you and for everything that you've done for the department. Thank you very sincerely. So this is an article from the South End. It's dated 1981. It's entitled Introducing Shel Lockman, which is a bit misleading because he had already been chair for several years. But it appears to be a get to know you kind of piece of writing. So Shel earned his PhD in the social area at the University of Rochester with Vincent Nolis and was granted a postdoc fellowship to the University of Illinois, where he studied with Charles Osgood and Ivan Steiner. He spent the next 7 years on the faculty of Southern Illinois University, and immediately before coming to Wayne, he was administrative officer at the National Institutes of Mental Health in Washington, D.C. Shel continued the development of the department by securing highly qualified new faculty. So you'll probably recognize some of these people. John Broughton, Thomas Castle, Joe Fitzgerald, Joe Jacobson, Gilsa Lebiev, Hilary Ratner, Carolyn Shantz, and Glenn Weisfeld. In the Io area, Ramon Henson, Andres N., and Jeffrey Walsh, Glenn Davidson, Lamiris Gardner were in the clinical area, and Mark Goldman, Annette Rickel, Rochelle Robbins, Melvin Schwartz, Milton Strauss, and Doug Whitman. Hi, Doug. Were also hired. In biopsychology, Rob Berman and Alice Young were hired, and Alice was my postdoctoral mentor for several years. So Shel was able to hire 29 people in the span of 10 years, which is an absolutely incredible number of people and something I aspire to shoot. Seems a little low. Thank you, Marcus. There's the provost. In addition to getting all these amazing hires, Shell also secured us a new space for the department, which was 71 West Warren, which we moved to in 1981. And so here's a newspaper article on that. So psychology moves into its new home in 1981. For better or worse. So this is now the third location. And so for those of you that are trying to wonder where this is the green space that's right there on Warren. So all the buildings, the history, English, psychology, all that was torn down. And now that's the green space that's there. So this is 71 West Warren, where the department was located from 1981 to 2005. So this is the green space coming up here. So this is where the department was located. Right. All right. So from there, what we're going to do is go into the next decade, and that's 1974 to 1984. And so here you probably could start to see faces that you might recognize. So you could probably see Doug Whitman in the back row there. Probably could see Carrie Lickman in the front row with a white blazer and black hair. And you could probably see Shel Lockman peeking out from the back all the way on the right. So in 1983, when Shel Alexander declined to renew his position as chairperson, a search was initiated. And after members of the department had interviewed several candidates, the position was offered to Marlene Kilby. I can't tell you how grateful we are that she accepted the offer to chair our department, and thrilled that she has joined us this evening. So glad you were here, Marlene. I don't know if she's here. She is here. All right. Thank you, Marlene. Just prior to coming to Wayne State, Marlene was chair at Middle Tennessee State University and Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Her areas of expertise were in biopsychology area, more specifically psychopharmacology, which is a love of mine. Her doctorate was earned at the University of Houston, and she later was a member of the faculty at the medical psychology at Duke University School of Medicine. Marlene served as department chairperson at Wayne from 1983 to 1992. For one calendar year, 1989, Marlene took a leave of absence to serve as advisor to the director of National Institute of Drug Abuse, NIDA. During her period as chair, she was also able to hire a number of people. Again, you'll probably recognize some of these names. Ernie Abel, Alan DeMulter, Roland Henry, Leslie Eisler, Melissa Kaplan, Felicia Seaton, Patricia Seipel, Louis Tietrich, Rebecca Treeman, and Mark Lumley, Kathy Erberg, and Ruby Vicinitz. And Jeremy Hall and Karen Elbenling were also appointed at the rank of visiting professor. So Marlene was our first female chair, and to date, our only female chair. So I thank her again for her service. And I wanted to take just a second as I think about this to realize that while we have only snagged one woman as chair, we've had many amazing women in the role of associate chair. So chairs share the leadership of the department with the associate chairs. God, yes, that's true. We have been focusing on department accomplishments under different chairs, but I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the incredibly important role of associate chair. We have had outstanding people in that role, including Alan Bass, Pat Seipel, Hillary Ratner, Kathy Erberg, Melissa Kaplan-Estrin, Emery Cano, Marcus Dixon, and for the past 9 years, Emily Grecken. I want to say that chairs often get recognized for the high-profile happenings of the department. I was mentioned a couple times. But I have to admit that associate chairs are doing the work that is the core of how we function as a department. Director of the graduate program, working with Aaliyah Allen, who also deserves a round of applause. On class scheduling, dealing with student complaints, and the list goes on and on and on. So at this time, please join me again in thanking the current and past associate chairs. Okay, next decade, 1984 to 1994. Marlene was still chair, and after serving for 9 years, she had decided to step down. So following Marlene was Alan Bass, who became chair. So Alan was a faculty for 34 years in the IO program. He earned his PhD at the University of Illinois and was committed to help growing the graduate program in IO. He is best known for his wit and good-natured personality. At various times, Al served as associate chair, acting chair, interim chair of the department. He also serves as associate chair for Dr. Alexander and continued in that role when Marlene was chair. He stepped in as acting chair in 1989. Marlene was advisor to NIDA, and Al seemed not to be interested in the position of permanent chair, but in a sense, the positions were imposed on him by members of the department who had confidence in him and his judgment. So during Al's time, the following people were hired: Doug Barnett, Rita Casey, Lisa Rapport, Paul Toro, Sub Fitzicaro, and John Mullenix. So you're starting to see the evolution and the department as we have it currently. So the next decade is 1994 to 2004. And so while I was interim chair, there was a search for a permanent chair. And this is when Don Casina was selected as a new chairperson in 1995. And he resumed those responsibilities in June. His doctorate was from the University of Chicago. And for many years, he was a faculty at the University of Toronto. His expertise were in biopsychology, particularly in animal psychopharmacology, brain lesion research, eating and motivation and emotion. He was tasked with strengthening the industrial organizational psychology program, and he aimed to find nationally prominent IO psychologists, which resulted in the hiring of Marcus Dixon and Boris Baltus. So in addition to strengthening the biopsychology program, he also was asked to strengthen the biopsychology program, and because of some loss of key people. And so he was able to hire Alice Young and Rob Berman, and Dave S. Dorian. He also hired, those people left. George Borsch and Tom Fisher were the two people that were hired as a result of those people leaving. Lee Worm also joined the department during this time under the Caspel area, which was a predecessor to the CDS area. Don did not continue his chair after his first term, and then Joe Jacobson, a longstanding faculty member, stepped in 2000. And very much like Al, Joe did not really want to be chair. But Joe earned his PhD from Harvard in 1978. Fun fact, he actually got his law degree first and then went back and got a PhD in developmental psychology. He was a prolific researcher in the area and was regularly traveling to Canada to study the effect of prenatal and postnatal PCB exposure on the Inuit population. With his spouse, Sandra Jacobson, he continued to study PCP exposure to this day and has expanded his work to including looking at fetal alcohol syndrome. And he is credited with more than 300 publications. So he's a very, very prolific scientist. With his passion, his research has took him away from the department regularly, although he was still an effective chair. In the 4 years he served as chair, he hired Marla Bartoy, John Hannigan, Ty Partridge, Naftali Ross, Sarah Ross, Anne-Marie Cano, myself, Maggie Brooks, Ava Sankfor, and Jeff Consul. And then Noreen Johnson is here on the side, and although she wasn't a chair, she had an important role here. She was an alumni from the clinical program, and in 1972, and was a former president of the American Psychological Association, and visited as part of the Michigan Psychological Association conference and fundraiser to establish the Noreen Johnson Fund, which was designed to support clinical training of third-year clinical students. At this event, our beloved Rodney Clark gave a brief talk about his research on how race discrimination impacts health. And a third-year student, Saiswan Ahmad, presented a conscientious raising talk about multiple perspectives of the world as they related to Arab Americans. There are several photos about this in the photo slide that was circulating earlier. Okay, 2004, 2014 is the next decade. So in these next 10 years, this is the Doug Whitman years. I was going to say a shout out to Doug, who I think is watching online so he can hear. So thank you, Doug. Doug earned his PhD from Brandeis University in 1973 and was hired in the same year as a clinical faculty here at Wayne State. And his research focused on the area of cognitive neuroscience. He served as director of clinical training from 1988, following the retirement of Gerald Rosenbaum, and stayed director of the clinical training until 2004, when he was hired as chair of the department. Doug only spent about a year in the chair's corner office in the building in 71 West Warren before we were moved over to Maccabees, which is our current location. Doug was able to make 20 hires during his tenure. I don't know if I should read all these or not. I'll save it. But the most of it is Margot Bowman, Valerie Simone, Tony Abbey, Emily Grecken, Marjorie Beagley, John Woodard, Michelle Tomaszewski, Chris Trinacosta, Lara Jones, Rich Slatcher, Larry Williams, Tim Bogg, Alyssa McGonigal, Justin Curry, Susie Bermolta, and Ann Stack, Scott Moffitt, and John Arnold. And so this photo on the right, I think it's your right, is Doug with his 90 PhD students. Yes, 90, 90. So very, very prolific scientist. Someone who asked to remain nameless described Doug as a brilliant problem solver, a no-nonsense leader with a heart of gold, a lovable smartass. Doug appears to have a love for administration because when he left the chair position, he became dean of the College of Education, where he remained until 2021. His LinkedIn profile says, "I have now retired as professor emeritus, concentrating on the novels and other writings I fantasize." So after 48 years of a career filled with outstanding research, mentorship, teaching, and leadership as the director of the clinical training, being chair, and a dean, we are wishing you a wonderful retirement. You deserve it, Doug. Okay, our fourth location, and this is the one that most of you, hopefully, if you're going to the department, I hope you are. This is where we're located. So we're located on the 7th and 8th floors now of 5057. And so this brings us to our current decade, 2014-24. Thank you, Shelley. This is when I was younger and didn't have gray hair. After Doug left, Boris became chair in 2014. He earned his MBA from the University of Wisconsin and a PhD in IO psychology from Northern Illinois University in 1998. He joined the psychology department that same year. In the 4 years as chair, Boris helped to hire Jeska Damasu, John Henricks, Catalina Kopetz, Noah Ofen, Stephanie Spielman, Andrew Spear, Shanique Brown, Lars Johnson, and Marilyn Franklin. Obviously, he was doing an amazing job because in 2018, when the office of the provost came knocking, he was poached out from under us. And that brings us to me, the current department chair. And since I'm standing here before you, I thought I'd share a different picture, which Shelley put up here. I earned my degree in experimental psychology, psychopharmacology from the University of Mississippi in 1993. Joined the department in 1997 after a postdoctoral fellowship in the Department of Pharmacology and Toxicology at the Medical College of Virginia. Under my leadership or roles, we have been able to hire 14 people. So Jennifer Gomez, Hannah Schachter, Pontus Leander, Tiffany Abrego, Amanda Leggett, Rodlisha Sneed, Christina Costa, Court Rudolph, Mariah McCarroll, Ying Chang, Rita Walker, Julia Felton, Lana Grasser, and Anthony Robinson. Okay, so that's a very, very basic history of the department. As I said, it could have easily gone on for a lot longer. And so there's countless number of other faculty, student achievements, and key events that were not covered. I apologize, but there just was not enough time to put all those things in there. So now that we focus a little bit on the history, I want to brag a little bit about what's going on. And I think that as a part of a chair, that's part of my job. So so we've done the past, so I want to do the present. Here, I want to just say a little bit about our faculty. And, you know, we just had our program review last year, and I thought the program review was very strong. And from that review, it said that the psychology department is a very strong department with several metrics that reflect the department's health and strength. The overall size of the department has remained steady since the last review in 2016. The program outcomes are strong, with all doctoral graduates finding employment within 3 months of earning their degree. Approximate enrollment remains steady at approximately 1,400 students from 2016 to 22. And as Stephanie said, we've dropped just a little bit. But we do have strong faculty active in research. We have, when I looked at this yesterday, we have 18 external grants. We have external funding that exceeds $12 million. We have hundreds of publications from our faculty every year. So the impact that our faculty are having on the outside world is tremendous. We have people that are journal editors. And so I picked the Journal of Violence, Psychology of Violence, that Tony Abbey is the outgoing editor for. We have others that are on editorial boards and serve in a number of roles. And I apologize that I'm not having time to put all that up here. Going back and looking through the program review, I noticed that a lot of people are serving on external advisory committees. We've had people that have contributed to news outlets. We have people that are writing media broadcasts, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing that we're very proud of is our psychology clinic. So our psychology clinic remains one of the most significant parts of our department. It is an integral part of our clinical training program serving Wayne State and the Detroit community. It provides psychological services 50 hours a week, 4 evenings. It provides 2,000 plus hours of direct clinical service annually. 225 and more clients are served annually. It serves a very diverse clientele. 95% are very low income. 50% are from a minority ethnic background, and 4 to 94 years of age. So it's a wide grade of what's served. They serve individuals, couples, families, and group services. They do everything from depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, addiction, personality disorder, chronic illness, etc. And 20% of our clients have a current or recent history of suicidality. So this clinic does an amazing job. And Marilyn Franklin is the leader of that, and I would like to give her a round of applause. And just really quickly, just to wrap up some of the other things that we have going on, NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Shelley Seguin, who I hope you know, has served as the board of directors for NAMI for over the past 8 years. Her work with NAMI has provided opportunities for dozens of undergraduate students being trained as facilitators for support groups, as advocates, and presenters about mental health. She has cultivated a partnership between NAMI Detroit and our department, as well as the School of Social Work, and established a NAMI on-campus chapter, a student organization called the NAMI Warriors. The large annual NAMI Walk was brought to Wayne State University in 2022 and 2023, and resulting in thousands visiting our campus, and raised over $100,000 each year. Well, that's an amazing accomplishment. At this year's NAMI Honors, NAMI Detroit was awarded the Affiliate of the Year, in part due to the work with Wayne State University and Shelley. There's another Wayne State honoree at the 2024 NAMI Honors, Hasti Ravu. I slaughtered that, I'm sorry. As an alumni from our program, our clinical program, is awarded Clinical Professional of the Year, a category with over 20 nominations, which is just an outstanding achievement for our department. Just quickly, I want to mention the Merrill Palmer Skillman Institute of Gerontology. Merrill Palmer Skillman Institute advances the development, health, and well-being of children and their families through research, education, and community engagement. MIPSI is an integrated hub that collaborates with families, children, and community partners to promote the healthy development and well-being of individuals and society. MIPSI faculty come from many departments across the university, contribute to an interdisciplinary approach to developmental science with several joint appointments in psychology. They operate the Early Childhood Center and the Graduate Certificate in Infant Mental Health, and recently celebrated its centennial in 2019. The Institute of Gerontology is nationally acclaimed for its community-engaged research on health and aging, for training the next generation of researchers in a variety of fields, and for educating older adults and the professions who work with them. Their work goes beyond research, offering annual conferences, learning forums, and research series, and education newsletters. IOG outreach and education programs engage 10,000 older adults and family caregivers each year. Thousands of nurses, social workers, and therapists receive CE credits on aging and health throughout our free trainings. I also want to mention that Peter Lichtenberg, I think, is here. Peter just retired or stepped down as director, and he deserves a big hand of applause as well. So our department is very fortunate to be so closely connected with both of these important institutes. There's so many other ways that our department has had a direct impact on our community, but I'm going to have to move on because I just don't have enough time. I do want to mention that we have approximately 100 graduate students, 36 in the terminal master's degree in IO, and we produce an average of 17 PhD students a year, which is the highest in the college liberal arts. So we lead the way on that. And they all get jobs. That's the other part. Outside of the university, Steffi. Graduate student support is very intense. There's an interview program, interview week. There's a tour of Detroit. There's orientation week. There's a comprehensive mentoring and training program. There's mentoring committees, MIPSI, IOG, IO, and iBio. Graduate ASO is Aaliyah. Aaliyah, thank you for all your work. And there's an annual review process and a curriculum funding alignment, which is funding through 90 credits. And again, our graduate program was picked up by the program review and stated to be a very strong program. So again, thank you for all that you've done to do that. Our undergraduate program, I'm not going to spend much time with this because Steffi and Provost have already mentioned this. So psychology broke the 100. We're in the top 100 of that. So that's a huge congratulations to all of us. I will just say that we do support students through a number of ways. We have the Rodney Clark Memorial Undergraduate Poster Day. We have coffee hour with faculty, the annual psychology graduation reception, just to name a few. There are currently 8 student organizations within the department: the African American Psychology Student Organization, the South Asian Psychology Student Organization, Psychi, Mental Health Warriors, Mental Health Matters, NAMI Warriors, Lit Minds, and a book club that reads psychology-themed novels, Radical Health, and PASS. PASS is our in-house, I think that's the next slide here, is our psychological academic support services group. This group is created in 2011 and by Stephanie Chasteen and Shelley. And basically these students volunteer their time to help mentor other students in their undergraduate program. So a big round of applause to those people as well. We've also set up an area for students to come and study and to be comfortable. So this is the George Borsch Undergraduate Lounge. This was dedicated to George Borsch, a very dear friend that passed away a couple years ago. And so we wanted to honor him, and we basically dedicated this room to George. So this was dedicated in April. This is a comfortable spot with sofas and a space for students to work. There's games, coloring books, a fridge with water and snacks and other things like that. And students are using this. So I actually, when I walk by, I see students in there studying, working on the computers and things like that. So thank you for everyone that helped to make that as possible as well. And then the last part is the future. And I don't have anything on this slide. And this is on purpose because my hope is that as we look back on the past 100 years, we feel inspired to keep this tradition of excellence in the work we do in the Department of Psychology. The slide is blank, to be honest, because the future has yet to be written. Yes, we have a strategic plan. And yes, I could have put it on there, but I'm hoping that we can dream even bigger. Going back to Skinner, and then I'll wrap this up. He had a statement here that said, by the year 2000, we will have to leave fewer of our problems to personal experience, to historical analogy, or to the kind of folk wisdom which at the present time go into their solution. Possibly this is science fiction, but it may nevertheless come true. A scientific analysis of human behavior is generating a technology which may have extraordinary consequences. And in other words, our scientific inquiry, our research can generate innovation which may have extraordinary consequences. I hope that we all feel inspired to do work that has extraordinary consequences. And with that, here's to the next 100 years. Thank you. Me again, or? I keep going? Okay, I'll keep going. Yes, ma'am. Okay, at this point, what we wanted to do, the organizing committee for this decided that we wanted to basically hand out a couple of awards to individuals for their extraordinary work at this point. These people have no idea that this was about to happen. So the first award is to go to Dr. Hannah Schachter. And this is an award for early career excellence. Hannah is currently an assistant professor in the developmental science area of the psychology department. She is also an adjunct professor in the Merrill Palmer Skillman Institute for Child and Family Development. Hannah's research examines adolescent social emotional development and health across diverse contexts. Hannah received her PhD from the University of California, Los Angeles in 2017 and completed an NSF-funded postdoctoral fellowship at the University of South California from 2017 to 2019. In August 2019, she began her tenure-track faculty position in psychology here at Wayne State, and soon after became affiliated with the Merrill Palmer Skillman Institute. So this is why the award. So during the past 3 years, Hannah has acquired approximately $450,000 in funding, and she currently is serving as an MPI on an NICHD-funded R21 grant with Dr. Hilary Marasuk, and as a PI on the American Psychological Foundation Visionary Grant. She is also serving as a consultant on an NIH-funded R01 with Jennifer Pfeiffer. This is an absolutely remarkable achievement for a junior faculty member at this stage. To date, Hannah has achieved an impressive total of 45 peer-reviewed journal articles. 23 of those are first author, 21 of which she has published in the last 3 years, as well as 4 chapters, 2 are first authored. Since starting at Wayne State, her total citation count has increased from 125 to 1,862 as of yesterday. Her H index is 20. Many of her publications appear in top journals such as Developmental and Psychopathology, Journal of Adolescence, Health Psychology, and Pediatrics. Hannah has continued to disseminate her research findings widely at national and international scientific conferences, such as the Society for Research in Adolescence, as well as broader, highly respected outlets such as The Conversation, Inside Higher Education, The New York Times, The Wall Street Journal, The Washington Post, CNN, ABC Television News, and National Geographic. Hannah's teaching performance has also been exceptional. She was recently recognized for teaching excellence with the prestigious 2022 Wayne State Journal Education Teaching Award and a 2023 Class Teaching Award. Notably, she has disseminated teaching strategies via written projects such as an op-ed published in Inside Higher Ed, sharing course materials and participating in interviews with Teaching at Wayne. Hannah has co-chaired the IDEA Committee, served on the Class Diversity Committee, and this summer she helped with the Department Strategic Planning Committee with several other people, and I thank you very much for that. In summary, Hannah is a wonderful colleague who has made excellent progress in the areas of scholarship, teaching, and service, and I'm very pleased to give Hannah this award tonight. Okay, our next award is a Luminary Award, and this is going to Mark Lumley. Mark Lumley is a distinguished professor in the clinical psychology program within the psychology department. Mark is a licensed clinical psychologist whose research focuses on emotion, stress, and physical health. Much of his research involves developing and testing emotion-focused interventions to reduce stress and improve health. Mark is a native of Detroit, attended Wayne State University as an undergraduate, majored in both psychology and biology. In 1990, he completed a PhD in clinical and health psychology at the University of Florida in Gainesville. After a one-year postdoctoral fellowship in behavioral medicine at the University of Michigan, he joined the faculty in the Department of Psychology here at Wayne State University. He became a distinguished professor in 2017 and worked as area chair and director of clinical training for the clinical psych program for 17 years. An amazing achievement. During Mark's time here at Wayne State, his research has demonstrated that directly targeting unresolved stress, trauma, and psychological conflict is very helpful for many patients with centralized psychosomatic conditions such as fibromyalgia, headaches, chronic musculoskeletal pain, irritable bowel syndrome, and pelvic pain. Mark has mentored nearly 50 students, 47, that's another amazing achievement, to their PhD. Mark has published more than 200 peer-reviewed manuscripts and book chapters. He has had more than 60 externally funded grants and awards and has served on absolutely numerous committees, both at the student and university level. Mark holds fellow status in at least 4 professional societies and has received numerous awards and recognitions for his work. And there's just too many to name. However, I do want to mention the one that I've talked about before. And this is the 2024 Nathan W. Perry Jr. Award for a career service to health psychology from the Society of Health Psychology, which was awarded to Mark earlier this week. I'd like to read just a small piece of the statement that accompanied this award. Mark received this award because of his decades-long contribution to developing, testing, and disseminating trauma and emotion-focused psychological interventions for chronic pain, especially emotional awareness and expression therapy, which is resulting in a major shift in the field's direction. Mark, this is a very small token for the department to try and recognize your many years of work in the clinical psychology area here at Wayne State University. Congratulations. Some flowers too. Okay, our last award is the Philanthropic Impact Award, and this is going to Patrick Gosman and his wife, Joan. So Patrick Gosman earned his bachelor's degree in 1973, master's in 1978, and a PhD in 1980. Degrees in psychology at Wayne State, majoring in learning with minors in computing and statistics. The minors led to the start of his career in computing at Wayne State University in 1975 as a statistics consultant, a career that now spans almost 50 years at Wayne State. He currently serves as his deputy CIO. Dr. Grossman chaired the National ITFS Association from 1999 to 2007 and led national campaigns to retain FCC spectrum for education and to change regulations to allow usage of broadcast spectrum from high-speed data service. He's also served in a number of different positions, the director of Community Telecommunications Network, higher education, public television in Southeast Michigan, and he's been a member of the ACM SIGU CCS since 1978 and has served on its board from 1991 to 1995. Joan Gossman joined Wayne State University in 1984 as the director of the purchasing department and served in that capacity until she retired in 2011. She joined Wayne State as a certified purchasing manager and applied purchasing practitioner, and went on to complete her bachelor's degree at Wayne State while working full-time with a major in English in 1994. Joan is a strong supporter of the Komen Detroit Race for the Cure to Fight Breast Cancer and co-chaired the Wayne Cares team in 2010 when it reached 856 registrants for the race. On a national level, she served on the board of the National Association of Educators, Educational Buyers starting in 1985 and became its 76th president in 1996. Joan and Patrick created an endowment in psychology in 2001 in memory of Julie A. Thomas, Joan's daughter, who died suddenly in 1988 from heart issues. At the time of her death, she was enrolled at Wayne State University and was pursuing a degree in psychology. The first scholarship was awarded in 2003, and the awards have continued to be made annually to deserving graduate students seeking a PhD in psychology. To Patrick and Joan, we sincerely thank you for all the donations that you've made to the department over these years. Very grateful for that. Thank you. Other quick things. I just wanted to give a small token to Shelly and Stephanie for all the work that they have done. I can't tell you how many hours that Shelly and Stephanie worked in the library to try to figure out all the stuff for this presentation, all the work and the hours that they spent to try to put this together for you tonight. So thank you very much, Shelly.
Thank you. There's Stephanie.
Yeah, Stephanie.
There's Kate in the middle.
Okay, that's all I have. I know I went long and I apologize. Thank you again, everybody, for helping us to celebrate 100 years of psychology at Wayne State University. And as I said before, I'm looking forward to the next 100 years. Thank you, everyone.